Welcome to Joy of Business Radio, hosted by Joy of Business facilitators from around the world, with special shows from Simone Milicis, the founder and creator of Joy of Business. Are you bored or dissatisfied with your work or business? Joy of Business is an invitation to a completely new way of creating. Did you know your business and job can actually be fun and joyful? If what you are currently doing isn't working for you, listen into this show full of pragmatic tools from Access Consciousness, which change everything in business, from money to finance, staff, creativity, productivity, communication, and beyond. Joy of Business Radio, weekly on OMTimes Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's installment of OMTimes Radio with Joy of Business Facilitators. This week you are joined by me, Sarah Watt, and
me, Melanie Meade.
And we are bringing you a show this week all about interns. So we were just laughing, talking about what we're going to call the show, and we came up with the amazing title, From Intern to Taking Over the World, which I thought was awesome.
Because it's true.
It's so
well, there's
true.
lots of things we could have called it, but I'm not sure if people get that interns, for me personally, Sarah, when I looked at interns, it was a very new concept to me because I used to never see it on American TV. And they looked like people that kind of ran around the office doing all the crappy jobs, not getting paid, and that was kind of it. So being an intern was an extremely new concept. So, taking over the world is totally possible when you have the tools and you kind of have that motivation to keep going to actually become, what are we calling ourselves? Worldwide business stars, international entrepreneurs. What other names did we come up with?
All of the above and more, yes. And it's so funny, I've spoken to a few people about how I sort of started this whole journey, and it wasn't even long ago. When did we both, it was so cool how this kind of, maybe we could just quickly cover a little bit of background for everyone on how we sort of started our journey here. And I think it was was it maybe in about April of 2017 that the two of us started on this journey? I
think it was 2016. Because for me too, when I look at the journey, it feels so fast. Once you kind of get in, you're in. The time has literally flown. Because if I was an intern last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, to me that was still a very short time ago with the amount that actually got created after just saying yes. Yeah.
And it's so true, the more you're creating and the more fun you have. Well, for me anyway, it's almost like time ceases to exist. I often have interesting times even just going from day to day and week to week, let alone recollecting or coming up with something that happened, a year and a half or 2 years ago. But, yeah, so for me, and I don't know if it was sort of similar for you, but I was working in a job that I enjoyed. I had what a lot of people would consider quite a cool job. I've worked with animals for 10 years. I was managing a cool business here on the Sunshine Coast and playing with dogs all day. And it was quite a fun job. And I always knew, ever from a young age, I knew that there was a lot in the world that I desired to contribute to and create. And, I was trolling through Facebook one day and saw this ad that popped up from Lauren Marie and Rebecca Holtz looking for, like you said, interns for their business. And I was sort of like what you said, I didn't really know what an intern was, but there was something about, I got a sense of the energy of what they were asking. And it was almost like my fingers were sucked onto the keyboard there and then to get my application underway and start exploring what it was that they were looking for.
Yeah, and I was quite similar. I was in a local government kind of office job, your typical 9 to 5. It was perfectly located from where I lived. I didn't have to hit traffic. I had all these great little boxes ticked. And for me too, it was I kind of always grew up with knowing that something else was possible. I didn't have words for it, but you ever just think everything's wonderful and amazing. And you're kind of, how old was I? My God, I was in my mid-20s or 30s. God, I'm lying. I was in my mid-30s and I was kind of sitting at my job kind of going, you know, I'm pretty sure there's more in me. You know, like that sense of adventure was still kind of there somewhere. And it's really funny because I actually, when you were talking there, I'd forgotten. And I was like, how I came across it was I was sitting at work. I hit my phone for some reason. I'm not sure why. I might have just been moving it. And Facebook popped up. And the first thing that popped up was this graphic that Lauren Marie and Rebecca Hulse were looking for an intern. And I straight away, I went, oh, I'm so in. Like, I didn't read it and didn't have time to read it. But I went, I'm so in. So I went back to it later on and I followed up on it. But it was like, I often wondered if that hadn't occurred, whatever. Like, it was just, you know, like could have been just slightly swiping my phone sideways out of the way for something very kind of innocent. I wondered would I have actually seen the post and applied for it. You know what I mean? So, but I was the same as you. I wouldn't have known necessarily what it entailed. And at the time, I was kind of dabbling in like teaching myself a couple of things like how to do graphics and cut audio, but nothing like professional, if you know what I mean. I wasn't necessarily doing it for other people. It was just something for me that I was curious about. And I knew I would like to learn it. And I wasn't actively pursuing finding employment in the area. Even though probably more than likely I would have been at some stage down the line. But an internship, when you look back, was like one of the best ways to go because I learned to marry a lot of different things together, working with people like Rebecca and Lauren Marie.
Yeah, and it was so awesome how they kind of, and even now that we work, which we'll talk about in a little while, where this internship took both of us, but it was so interesting at the time how they structured kind of quote unquote the application process. Like I remember reading, I think they had 4 or 5 questions. The questions were so open-ended and it was really just this space to kind of really show up and be me, which was kind of daunting right then and there. I was like, that's kind of like my holy shit moment where I was like, whoa, this is something like I've never really experienced before. And straight away from that moment, I was put into a space that now looking back and looking at what I created now was really like that, almost like that starting point of that, you know, that spark of creation that has been the catalyst and really been the space, my go-to space for where and how I create everything from now on. Like having that openness and that, you know, not giving people all of this information and really kind of steering them in a direction. I adore them both for a lot of different things, but just right from the beginning, it being really about me needing to step into myself and show up as me, which was kind of, I don't know how it felt for you, but I remember there and then just being like, whoa, this is very full on and a little bit, you know, quote unquote scary, even though I know now that fear was definitely much more of a sense of excitement and, you know, sheer excitement about the future and what this was all going to create.
I know, I actually totally get what you're saying. When you were talking there, like what I was thinking was it kind of puts you into question. So, for example, we didn't come fresh out of college or we weren't on our summer break doing an internship in an office that matched what we were studying. Like we both took a leap of faith on ourselves. We were going to try something different. And what it does is it puts you into question. And the beauty of the way Lauren Marie and Rebecca structured the internship was it got you to look at you. It got you to look at what did you like, you know, what kind of, you know, like that too, like that element of, like sometimes it can be overwhelmed because we have new interns coming on in an internship program. And one of the common things is you can sometimes maybe think you feel overwhelmed or you're not sure what's going on or you're wrong or you don't know how. But that with that slight lack of structure, it gets you to be really flexible and it gets you to ask questions and it gets you to look at what you're good at and it gets you to look at what you see that maybe other people don't. And it allows you to play with it then. Like, you don't have to be good at everything, but, like, what it does is, like, I know a certain amount about what I know, and that does not mean that I know everything. So a new intern could come on and find, like, for example, even, like, for me with, like, social media and marketing or whatever, it's like, kids are great. So I always ask my son what he knows, and things are always moving and changing, and, like, he's always showing me new things. And it's the same with an intern. It's, like, kind of working together rather than going, you're very privileged now, you're going to work with me and I'm going to show you everything I know and this is how it's going to go. And to be fair, having started that internship with Lauren and Rebecca, it was a really good foundation for actually going out into business myself. Because when you're growing your own business, you have to be in question, you have to trust yourself, you have to be willing to fail, you have to take a shot, and that kind of way of the setup, that's where you're starting, and that's where that's like you were saying too, it's what I continue to use every day. Like, every day to me is new. You know what I mean? It's just that I've gathered a lot more information. Yep.
Yeah, and for me, it's way harder for me to acknowledge something that I'm great at than it is for someone to tell me that I'm great at something. And I don't know how it is for other people. And for me, that's the big thing that and even right now, it's something that if someone tells me I'm good at something, I'm like, oh, cool, easy. I'll just do more of that then, or I'll get better at that, or I know now that that's what they require of me, so I'll keep doing it. But what was really cool about how how Joy of Business works and how Access Consciousness works and how these tools work, and also what I've realized what I've discovered creates the most in my life and for my future is when I'm willing to acknowledge what I'm really good at, what brings me joy, and where I'm willing to go out and create that in the world, and still always be able to receive other people's recognition of what you're great at as well. But like you said, like a normal quote-unquote internship in this reality would be you start by getting the coffees and then you might move into making some photocopies, whereas this just came with no form, no structure, no significance, and we were really given the space to start doing what this reality, most of the time doesn't do for young people or for people coming into the business world, and that is allow them to acknowledge and step into their own of what they're great at and what they know that they can contribute to the world as well.
Yeah, and it is a totally different setup, as you were saying, like to actually that question, like, what do you know? And also their willingness so it wasn't us showing up doing the dirty work, it was their willingness to show us things, to teach us, like practical, like for example, how to run a radio show or something like that, you know what I mean? But like the practical application, but their willingness for us to contribute to their business. Like they knew that by adding people to their business, even just as interns, could create more for them. Yep. You know what I mean? So you're not viewed as the slave.
And also not being willing to go the other way, and for it to be like us show up and maybe we totally sucked in the end, and they were like, oh, it's that willingness as well to be like, let's go at it, give it a go for 3 months or whatever we decide. I think it was a 3-month kind of trial situation to start with, where we were all very like open about, okay, let's just have a go at it, and not have that point of view of the structure of it being like, well, this is the expectation of what you now need to deliver because you've got an internship with Lauren Marie and Rebecca Holtz. It was really like, come in, let's see what we can all create here. And from there, I mean, we're about to go to a break and we can look at what's been created in this last 2 years since then. But it was certainly a foundation that for me created way more than any amount of structures ever created in my life before. So.
Yeah, it was a great platform to launch off of. It was like, especially when you look back from like having no experience, and this conversation that we're having now actually shows what a great contribution they actually were and how different internships can be and what they can create. So after this break, we can pick up where we left off, because that was only the beginning of the journey for us.
Awesome.
No one needs to have a money problem, especially you.
Yeah, did you hear that? You have an unlimited and mostly unaccessed capacity to create money and a financial reality that works for you. Simone Milasas has a brand new book. It's called Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. And right now, when you go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com, if you pre-order the book, you'll get a free online course. What if you can create money in ways no one else can? Just go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com to get your copy today.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Aloha, my name is Jennifer O'Neill, and I'd like to invite you to come join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time for my show, Spirit Chat. Spirit Chat focuses on simplifying the process of using the spiritual tools and gifts you were born with in a way that fits into your everyday life. I also teach different techniques that will help you learn how to navigate the spirit realm and empower you on your own spiritual journey. So join me this Wednesday as I guide you through the spirit world.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
So welcome back to OMTimes Radio with Joy of Business Facilitators. You've got Sarah Watt and Melanie Meade with you, and we're talking all about internships. We're actually both very new to being Joy of Business Certified Facilitators. We both did our training in Vienna. In Venice. I always do that for some reason. I call Venice Vienna, and they're two totally different cities. It's very strange.
But they're both beautiful.
They're both very beautiful. Venice may be a little bit more beautiful, but we did our training in Venice recently. We're both very new and at being Joy Business Facilitators, and we started our internship a couple of years ago. So we were talking a little bit before about that, sort of how we started out, and I thought we could look at, we really talked about how we had the freedom to play with a lot of different things. Like when we came in, Lauren and Rebecca introduced us to a whole heap of systems and softwares around emails and graphics and sound and, email marketing, like all the bits and pieces required to start up and run a small business. And I thought we could look at quickly, Melanie, how we sort of started finding what we were good at. So what was it that drew you into, because now, like if you want to talk about a little bit about kind of what you do now, it sort of was that starting point, right?
Yeah, no, it really, really was. It's really funny when you don't sit down and make a plan. Like what I always say was, a couple of years ago, if I was to sit down and make a 5-year plan, what would your life look like in 5 years? Like, where do you want to be in 5 years? I could never have said it would be this. I could have dreamt about it. I could have thought that it was a pie in the sky idea. I could have said something, because for me personally, the way it started was before the internship. I was curious. I thought it was super technical. I was like, how do you put words on pictures? And I was like, and I was like, it has to be super hard. And my son came to me with his phone. There was an app, and I was like, it's that easy. So I started literally just kind of playing around. So that's how I started before the internship, kind of long story short. And if you asked me then what I would have been doing, I would not be saying that I'm sitting here today have left a secure job after 16 years, actually creating my business, knowing what I know, and as you were just saying too, now kind of coming out from behind the scenes and being a JCF and facilitating classes. And what you were saying too earlier, it's acknowledging what you're good at can actually be one of the hardest things. And once we kind of got into the internship, that was kind of the next thing you had to look at, because the guys showed you everything. You did it, and some stuff you were better at than others, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast. You have natural abilities with some things that, like, for example, Sarah, now, like, if we look at the translation lines and stuff that you do, like, I can help you with it. Like, I can kind of jump in and do a few bits and pieces, but I would not have the full spectrum of information or, like, that capacity that you have. So that's the difference. Like, a lot of us can do it. Some of us just do it better. Yes. And I think I think actually it's easier to look at what other people do better than what, like, you're superior at. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where we kind of ended up going into the next phase of the internship, like from when you're moving from being an intern into actually kind of blossoming into kind of your strength. It was actually, it was natural and it was weird. You know what I mean? So because what I ended up in, it was a lot of social media marketing, but it gave me the confidence to not sit back and wait for Lauren or Rebecca, or when we moved, because we did another internship after that, Sarah, I did an internship with Joy of Business after that, but it's not to sit back and wait to be told what to do. It was for you to get out there and discover it, to kind of play around with stuff and kind of add to the knowledge that we had already. Because for me, that's what business is about. You don't just show up, crunch the numbers, and go home. It's like it's a constant exploration, and that's what this style of internship was actually kind of showing me. Was they actually wanted to know what you had. And like, I still find it funny because I work by myself at home. I work in Ireland. I have my laptop, and we talk to people all over the world and stuff like that. And when people say you're good at something or that you know a lot, it's kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like, because Simone was saying something yesterday on a meeting because we have new interns. She's like, "Oh, Melanie's so great at this. The way she looks at it." And I was like, "This is a bit weird," but I do look at it differently. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was, and even to this day, I still find it bizarre. But there's a part where you have to own it. There's a part where I have to stand up and say, "You know what? I'm good at it." And when you look at something like social media, it's very vast. You know what I mean? You're like, what you usually find, you're good at a pocket of something. Like, you were really good at something in particular. Like, some people are great at SEO, or other people are great at kind of graphics, or some people are great at writing emails or whatever. And like, sometimes to say you're great at something, you feel like you have to be great at it all. And that would be my biggest stumbling block. I'd be like, "Oh, no, I don't know everything." But I forget that I'm really good at, like, extrapolating. I'm really good at looking at things and kind of breaking them all out and down. And when people come to me and they're talking about I have this problem, or I don't know what to do, I'm like, "Oh, how about this? And I can come up with a million different ideas. And that's not a classic skill. So yet again, you know what I mean? That's not ticking any boxes or anything like that. And that's what the internship had to show me too, was to actually go, "Look, you're different. You think business looks this way. That might not be entirely accurate. You got to look at this from maybe a different angle here. You got to ask different questions and acknowledge different things." And kind of, for me, that's what it showed me too. Like, it was, rather than ticking the boxes and making sure we fit in and did this and did that, it opened up a whole new world, literally.
Yeah, and I think, like, everything you've said, and when I look at it now, like, everything that it really started cracking open for me was how much where this reality functions in business, which is everything you just said around how if you do something, you've got to learn from A to B on that one thing, and you just kind of stick to this one thing, and it's like, well, you're good at that, so you stick to that. And I think, like, what this internship, and then when, like you said, then from this, we did this for a few months, and then we both kind of blossomed and moved together into another internship with Simone Millicis and working for Joy of Business. And then from there again, where it was almost like stepping up. And again, like, anyone that's listening to this probably knows a little about the tools of Joy of Business and a little bit of the tools of Access Consciousness, and how really it's about getting out of this reality and what this reality tells us about everything, but in particular about business, and how, for me, this internship really cracked open that part of knowing that there was something different and something greater out there in the world of business, and knowing that you didn't need to go to university for a billion years if you didn't want to, or you didn't have to stick to one thing. But, on any given day, I could have 15, 20 plus different projects going, and literally working on all of them within a day and at the same time. And that's okay. And that's actually somewhere that you can really create from. Yeah, so it's so awesome having this conversation and really having an opportunity to look at how much the choices that obviously both you and I made, and the places that we stepped into, and what in turn that's created for us and for the world in such a short period of time. So,
and can I just add something there, Sarah, as you're talking, like, as in, I did have a lot of points of view of what business did look like, because growing up I was told it was a particular way, and I wasn't like the most confident kid, like, I actually had a business studies teacher in school that bullied me in front of the whole class for at least 2 years. Like, I was told I was worthless, I'd amount to nothing, and I actually believed her because, like, that's the way to, like, I was always told, because in Ireland in the 1980s we had this terrible recession and we were coming into the 90s, and free university was starting to show up and all this kind, like all these new possibilities. And like, there's two things you had to have to go to college or to get by in life: was business studies and a language. And I just couldn't get it right. I just really, really could not get it right. And as you were talking there, like I was just remembering, I was like, there was such, like, I just couldn't get it right. I couldn't tick the boxes. I was getting life all backwards and upside down and inside out. And I was, I was, am I going to spend the rest of my life, kind of wandering around aimlessly? That's what it felt like. And then these internships, it was like coming up for air. You know what I mean? Because as you said, multiple projects, multiple revenue streams, working weird and different hours, working on a Sunday, God forbid. But like, there's such a spark of creativity. There's a joy. You get you're creating something. You get it counts. You get that people, it contributes to people and that things grow and expand. And you're also actually kind of tapping into that zone of genius, like that brilliance that you are. And that's what the joy of business too is. Even if you don't do an internship, that's what the Joy of Business Tools gave me. It was like coming up for air. It was just such a relief. And it feels more natural to me now than before, when I was trying to tick the boxes, when I was trying to, because people would judge you. People would measure you. Like, I was a single mom, or you're going to, this is your destiny, or, you know what I mean? I hope you find a good man. And it's like whatever people say is irrelevant. Do you know what I mean? And now people are going, what do you actually do? Like, I've thrown the cat amongst the pigeons, and now they're actually looking at what does she do and how is she doing this, and how come she travels so much, and you know what I mean. And it's a totally different world when you're willing to step outside the box of what people say business should be. And when you look at it too, Sarah, which is actually kind of crazy, a lot of the people we admire, like I know Simone thinks Richard Branson is just amazing, and there's loads of other people, but they were people that were willing to step outside the box. So rather than just looking at them and being inspired, why don't we start making those kind of choices too? And that we're all doing something completely different, rather than thinking, oh, that's for them, because we make a decision that they're brilliant for some reason or they're better than us. It's like, no, that kind of brilliance is available to us all. We just have to be willing to choose. And we actually were really lucky that we kind of came in on 2 internships with like a group of amazing people that really did not do everything by the book, you know what I mean, and actually open up the world to us. And we're creating something totally different right now. And what is possible, because for me, Sarah, we've only tipped the iceberg.
Yeah, and I wonder how many people out there had people in their lives like that teacher that belittled and, did that to you for all those years. And what would it take for more people to realize that there is a different choice out there, and really all they need to do is be willing to step up and choose it. So so that segment flew past really quickly as well. So
it totally did. And I think it's very, very, we're flying through the show. Okay.
We'll be back soon. You're on OMTimes Radio with Melanie and Sarah for Joy of Business. See you soon.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Tune in to the Practical Intuitive, Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World with me, host Robin Fritz, Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. I'll cover personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life regression, shamanic insights, energy healing, soul choice, and more, all to help you tap your own intuitive and healing skills. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Putting the sun back in business. Wake up, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed, repeat. Business, work, your job, hate it, bored, want to leave it? Or business, work, your job, fun, play, joy, fun. Which would you like to choose? You may not know this, but business, your job, work can actually be fun. Shake up your business routine. Check out my 3-part free video series on putting the fun back in business. Go to accessjoybusiness.com/fun and put the fun back in business.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Woohoo! Welcome back, everyone. You are on OMTimes Radio with your special Joy of Business facilitators, Sarah Watt and Melanie Meade. And this week's show is all about, I'd love to say it's just about internships, but apparently in the first half of this show, we've just really looked at, and it's so exciting to me to get two people like us on a radio show and try and call it something and then just watch what actually comes out and what happens from there, and how much, obviously the two of us really function from this space of having a total joy in our businesses, in the businesses we create with and for, and it just makes me so happy to know that this stuff exists in the world and that I'm part of it, and that, there's a possibility for us to kind of let other people know that it's available as well. So I'm very grateful.
Yeah, and even before the break there, when you were talking, it's like, when we're talking about creating and all these different kind of things and what we're doing now, it's like, have you ever spent times in your life where you felt like you were the only person? You know what I mean? Like, this can't be true because I'm the only one that sees it this way, or this, it can't really exist because I'm only one person and I'm the one person that sees it. And like, having come across Joy of Business and Access Consciousness and people like Simone Milicus, it's like, we all might not do the same thing, but we're all heading in a similar direction, and it doesn't feel as lonely. And we are spread out all over the world. And like, as I was saying earlier, it was like that feeling of coming up for air. It was like just being able to breathe again, because the whole thing of majority rules sometimes is the way that we can function from. And what the tools of Joy of Business actually do is it allows you, not just with your business, because I know a lot of the time people would just put it down to business, but like, if you like your job, if you like what you're creating, your life suddenly looks a whole lot better as well. And the tools that we use in business, we can use in our daily interactions, and everything seemed to have just got better. And I know, like, this show we're talking about internships, but we're also showing people what it can create when, you step out of your comfort zone, you take a chance. Like, neither of us, as we were saying at the start, would say, did the classical route of coming out of college. Like, we taught ourselves a lot of stuff. We asked a lot of questions, and here we are today. Lo and behold, it turns out we're good at stuff,
Yeah, and the main thing for me was the willingness to, like, there's a few things really. The willingness to not give in. Like, even when you have those days where you're like what you're saying, you kind of feel all alone, or there's that space of like, it's typical of people like us, quote unquote humanoid mentality, where it's like, we're never good enough. And for me, I know I create a lot and I still never create enough, but there's always been a space for me where I've never been willing to stop. And, my brother actually, Brendan Watt, has said something really awesome a little while ago, and something that really stuck with me. And it's something when he started out doing this different quote unquote way of doing business, he was asked to do things, and he said this person explaining things to him would stand there and go and say, okay, so are you good with that? And he would just go, yes. And he said, no matter what, I would say yes to whatever was requested of me, and then I would go away and figure out how to do it, and I would make it work. And, it's just so in such opposition to how this reality teaches us, says that we need to learn things or how to conduct ourselves in business, that if you have that tenacity and that awareness and that willingness to trust and have your own back, that really you can go from, like us, you live in Ireland, I live in Australia, you came from like a corporate background, which I sort of did at one stage as well. And we both just knew on some level that there was something greater out there. And some people may say, oh, lucky you, you're lucky or whatever. But really, I think more than anything, it's that acknowledgement that we were willing to trust that awareness and to go after what we knew was possible in the world of business. And that thing where you said as well, what if everything in your life was your business and everything in your business was your life, and you created your life as though it was your business, and everything was just another piece to that bigger contribution to everything that you wanted to create in the world?
Yeah, because life just gets bigger, Sarah. And when I say bigger, it's just that you don't feel as contained. You know, things are more possible. And when you were talking there too, like, the biggest thing I would tell you that I would walk away from in business is you don't need to know everything. It is the God honest truth. You just got to ask a question. But it's asking other people questions. It's knowing what they know. It's getting curious, because, like, a great example would be, say, doing your taxes. You know, you don't need to sit down and go through the whole system and do it. Like, you hire somebody that's good at something and they will do it for you. You know, that kind of way. So, because it just, I know this reality, like the way business is done now, isn't based on you need to be able to do absolutely everything. But there is a part where you do feel, oh, I can't do it because, and it's like, and I have been challenged and stretched beyond an inch of my life on a lot of these things. And it always comes back to trust. Trust yourself that you know, but then what question can you ask? And it's really, really simple, but that's the thing. And stuff shows up. Like, you'll find, like, when you keep an open mind and you haven't decided where it comes from, you will get the awareness you're looking for, or the person.
And, like, it's like when you were in school and you knew the answer to something, and like what you were saying, it's often that awareness, that little whisper, that simple little thing that pops into your universe where you're like, I know exactly what's required here. I know what's required. I know the answer if it's something that has an answer, or I know what's required here to create this. But so often we would be shown to go, no, now you've got to stop and you've got to work out how you got there, you know, what it's going to take step by step. Whereas if you can go from that spark of this is what's required to boom, that's how it's going to be created. But there's actually a lot of that sort of bit in the middle that we're told we need to spend time on it and go through this and go through that. Whereas if we were willing to trust what we were aware of and what we know, and also the whispers of things that pop into our world, like we all know every now and again you'll come up with an idea or something in your business and you're like, oh man, I would love to create that now. And for whatever reason, it doesn't happen. And then maybe a week or a month or a year later, you're having a conversation with someone at the supermarket, or, you know, your best friend happens to call you and talk about this thing that all of a sudden sparks this idea again of something that you'd had, you know, at some time in the past. And then all of a sudden that little seed that you put out into the universe at that time where you came up with this creative idea or whatever it was, it's like, it's almost like, okay, well now it's time to bring this stuff into fruition, and maybe it's time now that this can go from something that was just a thought to something that could actually be created.
Yeah, it's a totally different way of doing things. And the two words you were using there was spark and whisper, and they are, for me, the two biggest parts. Like, if you don't, like, if you get a spark and you judge it or you squash it down or you don't listen to the whispers, not much can occur after that. And there's the two things that I know that when I'm on, like when I I get a spark, or sometimes I call it like a hit, like I kind of go, oh, like something just catches my attention and I kind of get like a little bit excited, and or if I hear something and then I recall it later, you know, like that's like for me it's like hearing a whisper of something. Like I get clues everywhere. And for me, like if you were to say, like, if I was to draw you a diagram of how I did business, that would be very much where my starting point is, you know?
Yeah. And for me, traveling so much now. Exactly.
No, go on.
And I travel now to so many places where English isn't the first language. Like I spend a lot of time in Spanish-speaking countries, and then obviously, you know, we brushed on it. I work in various parts of the businesses I work in now in translation. So I work with a lot of people that English isn't necessarily their first language. And I know there's something there as well where, you know, we're taught to learn a language you need to study for X amount of years. And like, just to use another really quick example of how this stuff works and how the whispers and trusting that awareness that you have, when I get out of this reality and functioning from that space of, oh, I don't know this language, I've never studied this language, and therefore I don't have a clue what these people are saying, to stepping into like the energy of what people are saying, it's almost like people can be having a conversation beside me in a total another language, and I'll get the gist of what they're saying, or there's certain words that you'll pick up on. And when you're willing to trust yourself and start using it and playing with it, there's actually so much that like our greater awareness and knowledge knows that's well outside of anything that we've ever been, trained or taught or sat down and learned about. And I think like, without going into it, because it's probably another hour-long conversation in itself, but just to give anyone listening to this radio show like that as a little, like that thing, the spark, the whisper, to know if you've ever had that moment where you've known something that you're not meant to know, or you had the answer to a question that you couldn't possibly have known. Like, what if you were willing to know and trust that there's probably a whole heap more out there in the world that you have a shitload of awareness around, a whole lot of knowledge around, and if you're just willing to go with it, that you could probably open a whole heap of doors that possibly you didn't realize could be opened before.
Yeah. And that's actually what fascinates me about you, like, is in translation wasn't, like, we'd say on the agenda when we started our internship, but when you were talking there, like, would I be correct in saying it took you to acknowledge that you had a capacity with it? Like, do you think that's the missing piece in a lot of the ways that we do stuff? It's like once you acknowledged it, it grew. But you were, you do it, like, you had a capacity with it. Yeah.
And even growing up, like, it's funny how in the businesses, like I worked in businesses when I lived in Sydney, and, at one stage I managed a call center, and if people would call in with a really thick accent, like the staff that worked for me were like, oh my God, I cannot understand what this person's saying. So I'd be like, look, let me take the call. And the same thing, I'd just step into this space of like, and at the time I didn't know what the hell it was. I was just like, for some reason I could just understand what these people were saying when they were speaking in an accent that no one else could really understand. And I think, again, it ties into that thing of like, when you have a capacity with something, and the thing I love about Access and Joy of Business is it's about empowering you to find those things, to find what you know, and actually the choices and awarenesses that you have that no one else has, like, and where you can then start creating way more in your life. Just being willing to look at those places where you become aware of things and that you know things, and then there's choices in this world that you can make that, not necessarily anyone else can make. So, yeah, it's funny, again, like with the thing about whispers and that little inkling or something tapping you on the shoulder, and how often we just brush it off. And now that I'm stepping into so much more in my life, and I look, back at that sort of stuff and how much it actually was those whispers back then trying to say, hey, Sarah, this might be something that you actually have a capacity with.
Yeah, and it's so cool. And I was actually listening to something from Gary Douglas the other day, and the one thing that stuck with me when he said it was choose from the greatness of you. Imagine like if every choice we made was based on actually choosing from the greatness of us rather than what we can't do, or, you know what I mean, that's ridiculous, or ignoring stuff or whatever. It creates something very different. And we're heading up to the next ad break into the last part of the show. So we will talk on the other side about some more things that we've got coming up.
See you soon.
What do you hate about business? And do you want to change it? If you don't want to change anything about your job or business, stop listening. You're all good. If you'd like to have money just for the fun of it and stop the negative self-talk, check out Joy of Business. This is about knowing what you know about business and creating more than you can imagine. Access Joy of Business 101 classes offered around the world. Go to accessjoyofbusiness.com/101.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living, a chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me, and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back to the final part of this week's Joy of Business radio show with me, Melanie Meade, and Sarah Watt. And we're both JCF. We both started as interns, and we're both on the Joy of Business team. And Sarah, do we want to let people know a little bit more about us? Because we've been talking a lot about our journey as, did I say entrepreneurs earlier? We're interns. We're probably entrepreneurs now. But like that journey that we did take, because my brain just goes everywhere. It's like we have created so much in such a short space of time that, funnily, we've talked to people about being interns and kind of the journey, but now we're actually also facilitators. So we're going into another whole new territory. And I would like to say it started on, kind of taking a shot in ourselves in internships.
Yeah. And I mean, it's been another huge step into acknowledging and being willing to put yourself out there because it's one thing to work for other people's businesses, and we were and still do create some huge things. I mean, you create some of the biggest social media and graphic campaigns for Access Consciousness and Simone Milicis and Joy of Business. And, I work with translation and class creation and a lot of the systems and things going into translation and getting access out into the world through various systems. And then it's almost like, we could happily keep doing this for another, 5 or 10 or more years. And again, this reality of business would be like, holy shit, you've achieved so much in this last 2 years. Like, why don't you just be satisfied with what you've got and perfect it or get better at what you're doing? And neither of us obviously are willing at all to put the brakes on or ease back or, think we need to focus on one thing, because now, I became a certified facilitator for Access in Noosa here in Australia last year, and then a JCF just a few months ago in Venice with Simone. And already now I've got, a 3-day Joy of Business class up. I'm going to do a foundation class. I've got some tasters and sort of 1-day classes. And this is really clench your fists and whole body shake with excitement, because this is where I actually get to put the things that have changed my whole fucking life, these tools that I use every day, that have changed my life and that have created this for me. And now I get the opportunity to get them out into the world for anyone out there who would like to choose them for themselves. And that to me is exciting beyond belief. And I'm super excited to see what this part of my creation creates in the world, I guess.
A whole new adventure. And if anyone wants to check out your classes, where would they find them?
Well, that's the other thing. Oh my God, it's like my whole life moved into turbo mode. I am working with someone at the moment to get a website up. It's like, oh my God, if I'd have thought, 5 years ago that I would be working on my own website, it's like, talk about pinch yourself every day and wonder if things are real. But at the moment, you can just go to accessconsciousness.com/Sarah Watt, SARAHWATT, and all of my Access classes are listed on there. And then any sort of one-offy type stuff I do, I put it all up on Facebook, so you can reach me on Facebook. I mean, you can even email me, sarahwatt@accessconsciousness.com with, requests or questions about anything at all. And, I'm excited. There'll be more and more coming up and more stuff posted. And, I just see this as really, like we were saying earlier, the tip of an iceberg that's going to be something much, much bigger and much greater. So what about you, Melanie? What are you now doing and creating in your facilitation business?
Well, I have a Zoom coming up on the 12th of September, so that's on Wednesday, and it's Creating a Business You Deserve, which is like my favorite topic to talk about all the time. Mm-hmm. And it was so weird because yesterday somebody messaged me and she was like, do you do private sessions? Because like, I really like what you've created. And I was like, oh God. Like, I remember kind of going, this is like the most bizarre thing where people are actually interested in what you're creating, you know, how you've done it. And I was like, what a compliment that you think. Or I had media published recently as well, and people were going, that's so good. And I was like, wow, like, who knew? And this is true for everyone, that everything that you create actually can create something for somebody else. Like, it's bananas. And I didn't create any of these things with the point of view of, you know, kind of, I would show people how it's done, but it's like, you being you is just like one of the most incredible gifts in the world. And I was laughing when you said about your website. I'm currently getting my website up too, and I laughed because I said to myself yesterday, I seem to do everything a little bit backwards, because in this world, we don't launch until you have a website. And I actually work in like this arena, and I was like going, ha, 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 I'm breaking all the rules. And so MelanieMeade.com is on the way. You can find me on the Access Consciousness website. You can find me on the Joy of Business website. You can check out what I'm up to on Facebook and on Instagram too. And Sarah, someday we'll get our shit together and we will have websites that are awesome. But like, you know, for me, I am putting 2 foundations on the book. There's one in the UK early next year, and I'm looking for one before Christmas. I was just discussing it yesterday, and this could be a whole other show about class creation and things like that in the future. But it is exciting time. There is more being asked of me, and I am the one that's requesting it. And the one thing I was going to say too is like the brilliance of Simone Milesis. When you were saying we could stick at these jobs, we could stay at these, like, she's always asking you to be more.
Yes, she would never let us do that. She doesn't mind. It's funny.
No.
Yeah.
But it's the biggest gift. But this is, I think if you were to like sum up the whole show, it is that be great. And if anyone's not allowing you to be great, they're really not a contribution to you. Like, they're really like, you know, they've got their own personal gain to get out of it. And like Simone would always say too, you have to be willing to lose people. And I've seen many articles written where you probably could keep staff or keep people working with you if you were allowing them to be everything that they desired. And a lot of the time that is very kind of stretching out of your comfort zone and kind of, you know, uncharted territory, you know, if you weren't going to tick the boxes. So it's a whole different world. And as like we were saying, tip of the iceberg, plenty more to come. And, you know, we might fall and stumble, or we could absolutely fly at things. And it's like, if you don't take a chance on it, like if we did not answer that little Facebook graphics that we saw on Facebook, was it in 2016, March 2016, things might not look like what they do now. Yep.
And how often as well do people work in teams and groups where they don't want someone to out-create someone else? Like, and the other thing I love about everything Simone does and everything that that Joy of Business and Access Consciousness is, it's like, what if we actually found people to work and create with that were better than us, or that we were willing to encourage to be better than us at things? And like, how much more does it create in the world where you don't ever put a stop on anything? Like, Simone has this green light system, whereas, you know, we work for this huge company where, you know, we're potentially playing with things that could, you know, create or not. And she just has this green light system that is totally amazing to me. So, you know, like, to look at it as well, if you're out there in the business world and you're looking to, you know, start an internship or start a new job or create a business of your own, I would encourage you to work with people that always empower you to be more of you, and and they never sort of want you to earn your stripes, or all that bullshit people say where, oh, you haven't been here for long enough to do that, or you haven't earned your stripes to do that. Like, look for people that match the energy of what you're looking to create in the world, and empower yourself, empower the other people you work with, and look to create and work with people that will empower you to be the greatness that you are in this world, and to challenge you in a way to step into more of yourself and to more of those things that you have awarenesses of and that you're great at.
Yeah, exactly. And like, what I would say to any intern that would be looking to, or somebody who's looking to start out, is like, one of the things for me was my desire for other people to succeed. Like, when I work in the background of people's businesses, we'd say, like in social media and stuff, and I look at how brilliant they were, was actually a big part of me kind of moving forward and being a contribution, because like I wasn't just rocking up, you know, ticking the boxes, or I'm going to be grand and this will be fine. I was like, no, like what else is possible? What have we not created? What don't I, you know yet? What can I look at? And it's like that curiosity and that desire for more. Kind of beats a lot of qualifications and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, as in, if you have a desire to get out there and create something, just ask them questions. It never shows up the way you think it will. It can. You know, and you were saying earlier, listen to the whispers. It's a whole different world when you open yourself up to possibility, rather than sometimes that confinement of the way we think things look. And what I say to my son regularly is, I spent at least 35 years of my life doing that. I'd like to think I've done all the hard work. Could everybody else now just go and, you know, I can do a big study and say, you know, not the best idea, and get out there and play, because, you know, it's a lot more fun to begin with. And I have a bigger and a happier life for having made those choices.
Yeah, and to look at it again, it's been 2.5 years between the two of us. So how cool is it to think as well that in 2.5 years, this is what we've created, and what next? And yeah, as long as I'm creating something new in the world, I think that I'm, you know, contributing something. And really quickly as well, you brushed before on the lady that reached out to you about a private session. Please, everyone, also be aware that everything you do creates something for people in their world. And even if you don't have a lot of feedback, know that people are recognizing and seeing what you're doing, and know that when you're being you and being willing to show up in the world as you, you're fucking changing people's lives. And whether you hear a lot of feedback about it or not, just know that it is changing the world when you're willing to be you and step into more.
Yeah, a walking, talking possibility.
Yes. This has been so awesome. I'm so grateful. And I'd love to, in 6 months, for us to do another one and look again at like the things we've created now with being facilitators in the world. And you're awesome.
No,
I'm so grateful to be able to work
for us,
and create
because we've been on such a journey.
Yes. And it's so funny how similar they are and yet so different. Yes, well, I guess we have to stop.
And it's been a great
time. Coming on, so